Welcome to the Possibility Action Network. I'm Stephen Middleton, aka Possibility Man, bringing you stories of hope, resilience, and possibility. Today, I want to continue sharing on the theme John Stuart Rock. But first, I want a reminder. If you have not subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to do so. Tell somebody about it. If this content is relevant to you, help me grow this channel and grow this network. Together, we can achieve more. John S. Rock was a very special individual as I review his life. He shows us that sometimes it's important to adapt, to pivot, to make a course correction, but never give up on your dreams. He lived a life of purpose, and he did so for his entire life. As I said last time, he wanted to become a medical doctor. But schools at the time did not admit him because of the color of his skin. They didn't care about his aptitude. They didn't care about his discipline. They didn't care about his preparation. They looked at one element beyond his control, color of skin, and denied him. But Rock did not give up on his desire to become a professional and a worker in the health care industry. So he became a dentist, and in time, he also became a medical doctor. And he began practicing medicine as he continued to work as a dentist. In a short while, in less than a decade actually, the toll of both of those occupations began to take a toll on his health. He suffered chronic illnesses. He was on his feet for long hours of the day. He was using his hands to work on his patients. It was a difficult task for him, but he thought about his patients and he worked tirelessly on their behalf until his health challenges forced him to give up the profession that he loved. But his mind was still good. He still wanted to be a person of service. So what did he do? He did not surrender. I'm curious, what would you have done? Would you have said, I've given this thing a lot of years of my life. I'm going to give it up and I'm going to spend the rest of my life in retirement. Dr. Rock did not do that. He made another adaptation. He made another pivot. His mind was excellent. His power of reasoning was good. He was able to deliver arguments in his speeches and his conversations. And then he decided, I'm going to become a lawyer. I'll continue the good work that I've started on behalf of my people and on behalf of my country. So then he began to study law, at first by himself, and then he joined a law practice of an individual who was also approved by the bar. And reading law at the time was common during his day. For example, back in the late 1700s, Patrick Henry read law, passed the bar, and became a lawyer. In the 1800s, Salmon P. Chase read law, passed the bar, and became a lawyer. And in fact, Mr. Chase became Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. So Rock did not do anything out of the ordinary. He did what others had already done, read law with a qualified lawyer, pass the bar examination, and enter the practice of law. Rock then opened up a law practice in Boston, where he had clients for about 4 years. He also was appointed Justice of the Peace. And in the Justice Court, he was able to preside over, lower level cases, dealing with issues, disputes between individuals in the county that he worked. As the Civil War continued, he became a recruiter for the United States Army, advocating for Black enlistment into the military. And here, Rock was strategic. He understood, not only as a lawyer, but as a citizen, what Chief Justice Roger Brooke Tawney had said in 1857 in the Dred Scott case. Tawney had said black people could never be citizens of the United States. Tawney had said a black man had no rights that a white man was bound to respect. Rock understood that Tawney was wrong. Not only wrong morally, he was wrong legally. His comments were actually contrary to the American constitutional system. So Rock understood then that a citizen stands up for his country, that a citizen performs his citizenship. And then he believed then that blacks who entered the military would be performing their citizenship. And he advocated for their enlistment, which in Rock's mind was an attack on the Tawney decision. And as the Civil War came to an end, Rock had an experience in his life that put him on the national scale. He wanted to be able to be admitted to practice law before the United States Supreme Court. That is, he wanted to be able to go into the court on behalf of his clients and make arguments on behalf of those clients. In order to be admitted to the United States Supreme Court bar, a lawyer needed to be sponsored by someone who was already approved to practice before the United States Supreme Court. And you know who he found? Charles Sumner, the senator from Massachusetts, who had been arguing on behalf of black people since the mid 1800s. Sumner presented Rock to the United States Supreme Court, in effect, putting his reputation online, saying that Rock is an able lawyer. Rock is an individual of high character. Rock was an individual who also had a right to be recognized as a lawyer before the United States Supreme Court of the United States Supreme Court. And Rock then was admitted to the U.S. Supreme Court bar. Now think about this. This was in 1865 when it was admitted to the bar, less than 10 years before Tawney had said, whatever he said. That ridiculous argument that Americans actually rejected. We make a big deal of what Tawney said, and it was an ugly decision. Don't get me wrong, I'm not excusing it whatsoever, but the country never abided by the Dred Scott decision. The Civil War came. And before the Civil War, a lot of other things happened that we may talk about someday because Tawney's decision really shook up the country. A lot of people, except slaveholders, turned their backs on the Tawney opinion. And Rock then, being admitted to the bar, a man who Tawney said was not a citizen, was actually doing the work of a citizen. The Supreme Court, even though it did not speak about the Tawney decision, recognized Rock as a citizen able to practice before the United States Supreme Court. About a year later, in 1866, John Rock passed away, but his legacy did not. I want you to think about John Rock in terms of gains, in terms of progress. So John Rock then understood what Tawney said in 1857, but in 1865, he saw gains. He saw his admission to the bar to practice law before the United States Supreme Court. He did not live to see it, but in 1866, the Congress of the United States also passed its first ever National Civil Rights Act. That act declared that all persons born in the United States are citizens of the United States. Therein was birthright citizen in a statute, in a law of the Congress. And it also said that these citizens have the right to enter into contracts, which meant that they could buy land, they could sue and be sued, and they could have the same rights of other people. Gains is what John Locke was working for. And then a couple of years later, in 1868, Congress passed the 14th Amendment. The Congress recognized that some may question whether an act of Congress would nullify a Supreme Court decision, and also whether that act of Congress could be subject to be nullified by another court. So they adopted the 14th Amendment to reaffirm birthright citizenship. All persons born in the United States are citizens of the United States and the states thereof. And the clause also included privileges and immunities. Citizens, have a right to enjoy the privileges and immunities that are granted to citizens. They have a right to equal protection of the law, and they have a right to due process of law. This is 11 years now after the Taney decision. Gaines, and John S. Locke illustrates this. I'm Stephen Middleton from the Possibility Action Network. Thanks for joining me in sharing stories of hope, resilience, and possibility. Until next time, good day